Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to be launching a mini series, and we're going to be investigating art journals and distress mediums because there are so many fantastic art journals out there, especially for mixed media. But the question is, which ones of these will actually play well with distress? So we're going to be investigating this and finding out and giving you the results. If you'd like to see which supplies we'll be using here today, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to be starting on a fairly large crafty adventure. So first, let's see what I have on my desk. As you can see, we have got quite the tower of arty journals. And we're going to be exploring these today and seeing how each of these plays with our favorite Tim Holtz Distress products. So let's get right in there and see what's in this giant stack. Today we're going to be looking at a variety of substrates. I love to art journal, but the big problem is there is no such thing as a Tim Holtz art journal. That's okay because there are many options out on the market, but the question is, how do you figure out which one is right for you? And which ones will stand up to different medias. So today we're going to be looking at 12 different options and cross-referencing those to my favorite Tim Holtz substrates, which would include mixed media tag and distressed watercolor paper. So let's see what I found. I have been scouring all of Amazon and collecting different options from some of my favorite places. So one of the first ones I came across, this was an Amazon find. So what we have here is the Paul Rubens watercolor sketchbook, and it's a really nice convenient size. It's about 5 inches by 3.5. So that's a pretty decent size to work with. It's nice and portable. And if we open it up, you can see we've got some pretty nice paper. It's nice and thick. So in theory, it should stand up very well to lots of mixed media products and plenty of water since it is a watercolor paper. So that's the first one, and this was one of my Amazon finds. Now, moving right along, we're just going to do an overview first of all the different options, and then we'll get into testing. Okay, we've got this one next. Oh, what is this one? This is a Strathmore. And this is also intended for watercolor. The paper is pretty nice. It's got a good press, a good weight. Again, it's got a nice size to it. Size to me for creating is pretty important. And I also like having options. So sometimes I want to create little small things and sometimes I want to do a big spread. So it's great to have options. But since this is watercolor paper, the Strathmore should hold up very nicely to wet mediums. Next, we have got the Alice in Wonderland Art Journal. This is by Jane Davenport, and this was imported from Australia, so it's not as easy to get your hands on, but I have found the Jane Davenport journals to be absolutely fantastic for working with mixed media. So if we take a look here, we've got nice thick pages, and it's a nice square shape, so that's great if you're doing some art photography. We'll definitely be coming back and playing with this in a little bit. Next, we have another Amazon find, and you've probably seen these around. This is a Canson Mixed Media XL. Pretty standard. On here it says acrylic, watercolor, pen, and pencil. And this one measures at 5.5 by 8.5 inches. It's pretty decent, but I will note right away the paper is a lot thinner. So it's probably not going to hold up as well to our mixed medias and messy sprays, but it's still a very affordable option. One thing you could do if you're worried about your paper shredding, you could double up the pages, but then you would lose some of the space in the journal. And this comes with 60 pages. So this is another relatively affordable option. Next, we have Stamperia Mixed Media Journal. So this one says right on the cover, ideal for scrapbooking and mixed media techniques. And it's measuring in at 5.8 by 8.3. It's an A5. To me, this is kind of an unusual size. I don't work in portrait very often or landscape. and it's a little bit skinnier than other journals I've used. However, this is intended for mixed media, so I anticipate that we're going to have pretty good luck when we create with this. Already, you can tell the paper, it's nice and thick, it's got a good sound to it, and it kind of feels like distress heavy stock. So I'm hoping that it's going to be playing nicely with all of our distress products. Okay. Next, this one's a little bit more obscure. This was a random Amazon find. I can't quite figure out who the paper's by, but apparently there's some art prompts in here by Janna Rainey. So we've got that on the back. All it tells us is that we've got 40 sheets of 140 pounds or 300 GSM premium Italian watercolor paper stock. So right there, that sounds pretty good. And this was produced by Clarkson Potter Publishers, an imprint of Penguin Random House. So that's interesting. The paper to me seems a little bit light for watercolor paper, but it's definitely worth trying because this was another fairly affordable option. I want to say under $20. So it's well worth it to explore the different options out there. All right, next. This one is a little odd, but I think it's pretty cool. This was another random Amazon find, and it was advertised as a blank shadow witch's journal. But come on, the cover on this is amazing. The hardware, it makes me think of ideology. We've got some really cool stitching and graphics going on here. Just the look of it alone is fantastic. But the bigger question is, will this paper hold up to our wet mediums? It's kind of thinnish, but it's got this really interesting texture, which kind of makes me think it might be intended for mixed media use. And given that these papers are definitely stained, I'm guessing these may have been submerged in some sort of dip dye to get this really cool vintagey look. So just on looks alone, I want this one to work really badly. I love the handmade feel to this, and I'm hoping that it will play nice with our distress products. So another interesting possibility. Now, this might look familiar to some of you. One of my favorite Canadian artists is Bailey J, and she has her own line of sketchbooks. The main feature of this is the embroidery. She's an artist, and she does a lot of digital and embroidery type designs, and come on, these cats are adorable. I have worked in this before for mixed media. I've done some Halloween prompts. So I already know that this does work pretty well, but I haven't really gone all out. I've been a little bit reserved on the mediums I've used. So we're going to take a closer look and see how this plays with more of our mediums. Now, one thing to note, the papers, it's kind of a medium thickness. It's got a good heft. It's definitely not thin. It's not going to go right through. But the question is, and I haven't found any information anywhere, is this really intended for mixed media, or is this more of a sketchbook? As a sketchbook, I expect this is going to be absolutely perfect. But my variety of craft is more mixed media. So we need to put this to the test and find out how well it's going to play with the wet mediums. Okay, moving right along. This is one of my favorite art journals to work in, and as you can tell, I've decorated just a bit. This is the Ranger Dina Wakley Craft Journal, and I love playing with this. It definitely holds up very well to our distressed mediums. I've worked with this quite a bit, but I still think it's worth it to come back and show you exactly why this is one of my favorites to work with. And since it's by Ranger, we know that the quality is going to be superb. So, right away, we have got thick pages. It doesn't get much thicker than that. So, we know this is going to hold up to our mediums. But the question is, how well and which mediums does it play nicest with? So, this is our Ranger option, and it's a Dina Wakley Mixed Media Art Journal. Speaking of Dina Wakley, she came out with another fantastic art journal this year, and I am so excited for this one. We have got the Printed Ledger Journal for Mixed Media, and right there, it says it in the title, so you know this is going to play nice with other products. But look at the inside. This is gorgeous. Now, this is interesting. The pages are not super thick, but It is very similar to the same consistency that we would see with traditional mixed media cardstock. So I have no doubt that this was designed to withstand lots of layers. And we did a little bit of play in an earlier video where we made this, and we definitely put out the sprays, and as you can tell, it held up absolutely beautifully. So this is quickly turning into one of my go-to journals for when I want to use a variety of mediums. But let's see, what else is there? Well, honestly, there's quite a bit, and I definitely couldn't fit it all into one video, but I picked 12 promising journals at a variety of prices. Okay, so this one is a little bit pricier, and the neat thing about this is that it is wood-free. This is Studio Series Mixed Media, and it has 60 sheets of heavyweight paper, but it's not paper. This kind of blows my mind. It says heavyweight paper, archival, acid-free, wood-free, smooth finish, controls bleed, versatile, durable surface, works with wet and dry mediums. So right there, that's what I needed to know. This is designed to play with mixed media, so that is a very good sign. Now let's just flip this over, see if there's any more information on the back. There is. So this is created by Peter Popper Press Inc. I don't really know anything about this, but they're from the United Kingdom and Europe, so it is interesting. All right, let's take a look at the paper. So the paper, it's thick. It's got a good weight. It's got a nice texture. So this is already a good possibility, but it was on the pricey end of things. This was around $36. All right, one more. This is also designed by Ranger. This is the Diane Reefley Delusions Art Journal. And this is pretty neat. It's a little hard to open. I haven't quite gotten used to that elastic yet, but the interior is quite lovely. We get a beautiful side pocket to put things in, and then we've got a really interesting spine here. It's, I don't know, it's cool. And then the actual block itself. So this is important. The first paper that we come to is Ranger Mixed Media. So we know this is going to be good. And this, I am 95% certain, is the same paper that we use with Tim Holtz tags and mixed media paper. We're going to have to check that out and do a cross comparison and see if that holds up to be true. Now, this journal not only comes with the mixed media paper, we also get this beautiful black paper as well. This is a little bit thinner, but I definitely want to explore it and see how it plays. And then we also get some craft stock. This is a little bit lighter than what we found in the Dina Wakley journal, but it's still got a good weight. So this particular journal has 3-in-1 options, and it is designed for mixed media, so we know it's going to be a good choice. All right, now it's time to find out how these journals hold up. I have cut myself a whole bunch of swatches that we're going to be using and experimenting with so that we can get a better idea of how all of these papers play. So here are the swatches. We're going to do one swatch in real time and some of them on fast forward. Let's see here. How do I want to break this up? I want to choose some of the really interesting or questionable ones for real time and some of the generic ones for fast forward. Let's see here. All right, this one has to be real time. That is too cool. I also want to try to do the Paul Rubin in real time. Oh, where's the mixed media cats? That's gonna be pretty generic. The Jane Davenport, Dina Wakley, Delusions. All right, this is the wood-free one. So I want to do these 3 in real time, and the rest we will put on fast forward, and then at the very end, we'll go back to real time and swatch with the Tim Holtz mixed media and the Tim Holtz distressed watercolor cardstock. And I'll also do a small swatch in the ledger journal. All right, so what supplies are we using today to test out the versatility of the paper? Well, we have got a variety of things to work with. And since we're looking at mixed media, well, we want to choose our mixed media options. We've got Crackle Paste Opaque. We've got some distressed watercolor pencils, some distressed crayons. Of course, I've got my trusty water brush. We've got distressed paints, some embossing glaze, a spritz, and of course we've got some distressed spray stains and an oxide. I'm also going to pull in the distress inks, and we also are going to want the re-inkers. And I also want to do a little bit of stamping with some archival ink too. So we've got all sorts of options to play with. Let's go ahead and start with our dry mediums, and then we're going to move into wet mediums, and we'll do crossover, and then we're going to soak the edge of the paper and see how well it holds up or if it disintegrates. All right, let me just scoot a few things around. So this is the Paul Rubens. It is a watercolor paper, and what I noticed right away is that it doesn't have a smooth side or bumpy side. Both sides feel exactly the same. So let's see here. Put down some of our distressed crayon. Goes down pretty smooth. Let's see, is that going to blend out nicely? Yep, that plays very well together. Great. And if we add just a little bit of water, yep, still playing nicely. So that's a good sign. And it moves pretty easily on the paper, so we can tell right away this was intended for wet medium. All right, now some distress watercolor pencils. Goes down pretty smooth. It's got a bit of tooth, so it's definitely taking the color off my pencils a little faster. And the blend, 'tis good. So far, so good. All right, let's see. I want to do some paint next. Okay, I've got some paint. I've got a paintbrush. I think I want just a little bit of water. And that moves around right away. Yep. Ooh, it's actually got a really nice flow going. That's neat. Yeah, I'd say this works really well. Very cool. I was not expecting to get such nice flow. Very cool. All right. I'm going to turn the volume down for just a moment. I want to see how this reacts when I hit it with some heat, because sometimes paper wants to curl up and do odd things when you add heat to it. Okay, that looks good. I'm not noticing any warping. That's a good sign. Very neat. Okay. Let's see how this does with a little bit of ink. I want to stamp. Let's see here. Let's go for a little bit of texture stamping. That'll be a nice change. And you know what? I'm going to double down. We're going to stamp with archival and with distress inks. So I stamped with some black soot archival on one side, and then we're blending in distress prize ribbon ink and some mowed lawn on the other side, just to see how stamping works. Okay. All right, stamping looks pretty good. Not bad. All right, next I want to go in with some distress embossing glaze, and I'm going to need a stamp for that. So let's go ahead and grab a moth or a butterfly. Okay, I grabbed a butterfly from Flutter, and we're just going to add some Distress Embossing ink. Now, I have noticed that not all papers like to play with embossing glaze. Just something about the texture of paper that makes glaze want to flake off sometimes. So let's see how we do with this. Okay, I've got our butterfly. We'll put that right here. Good firm pressure. All right. Oh, end up with a little bit of extra. Okay, not a problem. We're just going to put down our sheet and glaze. Okay, looks pretty decent. After this, we're going to go in with some Distress Spray stains, and then we'll finish off with some crackle paste. All right, be back in just a moment. We need to emboss this. Oh, that looks pretty good. Not noticing any issues, no cracking. It didn't absorb too fast, so that is very good. Well, while I'm at it, I do need to add just a little bit of Distress Re-Inker. We want to see how that's going to play. Let's bring in some yellow. Need something to brighten this up a little bit. There we go. No issues around that. Everything's flowing. Color looks good. Okay, great. And let's just add a little touch of green to finish that off. Okay, not bad. Now it's time to add the spray stains. So I'm going to do what I always do, which would be do a little bit of water. And then we'll go in with the spray. So I'm going to try to take it easy and not overwhelm what I've already got. For sprays, I used Squeezed Lemonade, Picked Raspberry, and Mermaid Lagoon. All right, so we got our sprays down, and I'm going to go in with some water, and we're going to put this part on a lower volume as we drip and dry with the Ranger Heat Tool and some droplets from the Distress Sprayer. Okay, and that held up really nicely. It's a little warpy, but the paper is still in good shape, and the colors look absolutely fantastic. So now let's go in with a little bit of crackle paste. There we go. And we'll just add a little bit of that through the stencil, and then we'll add a dash of spritz and let everything dry. Okay, there we go. Now some spritz to finish it off. And for spritz, we're going to be using some fossilized amber. Give that a good shaky shake. And spray. Perfect. Let's also add a small collage element to this just to see how it's going to play when we add some glue to it. So I've got a few small pieces here, and we're just going to glue them down and let them dry. So let's go ahead and attach these pieces. Of course, we're going to be bringing in my favorite collage medium, and like with most things, I love to layer things up. Okay. And a little bit more glue here. And just a little bit across here. There we go. All right, and we have our collage element added. Let's go ahead and set this aside and check out our next substrate. So the next paper that we're going to be looking at is the Amazon one, and this is from the Mystic Spellbook Journal. The paper is fairly thin, so I anticipate that this might not hold up as well to some of our wet mediums, which is why I wanted to do this one in real time before we dive into our fast forward segment. All right, so again, let's start at the beginning, and we're going to do our Distress Crayon first. Let's see, we've got a little bit of cracked pistachio, and I thought that would go nicely with some tumble glass. So, it seems to go on really nicely. It's not bad. It's got good smudgeability on the paper still. So those are good things. Let's see how it does when I blend this out. No issue so far. It moves. Okay. Well, let's try the Distress Watercolor pencil next. So I'm going to start with some scorched timber. Ooh, this paper is really textured. You can tell when you start coloring. Not a bad thing. It's got texture. Let's see. Let's go for some mowed lawn. Okay, and we'll blend that. Seems to be good. The Distress Watercolor pencil spreads very nicely on this. It's a little translucent, but that's okay. So far, not bad. So, Distress Crayon and Watercolor pencil seem to be a yes. It hasn't done anything weird to the paper yet. I haven't even gone through. Huh. Not what I was expecting. Let's see what happens when we add a bit of paint. So, I'm going to spray this first. We'll put our paint down. Ooh, whoa, that just went flume. That's, wow. Definitely reactive, okay. I am intrigued. Huh. I was not expecting that to react so well. So, whatever this is, it's pretty friendly when it comes to things that are water reactive. That is very cool. Well, all in all, I'd say that's not bad. Oh, getting some interesting effects here. This is neat. Huh. Okay. So, maybe this is going to have some promise. Okay, now we're starting to bleed through a bit. I was expecting that. Well, let's see how it looks when we dry this off. All right, we'll be back in just a moment after we've dried our paper. Okay, that dried out really well. Let's go ahead and stamp and see what happens there. I'm not anticipating a very clean stamp because our paper is so textured, but let's go ahead and stamp and just see how it looks and how it reacts with the archival and the distress ink. I think this time I'm just going to go for one color of distress ink. What do I have? Ooh, I've got some lumberjack plaid. Let's use that. All right, so I'll take this and stamp it out. Okay. It stamps relatively well. You can definitely tell we got some texture here, but I kind of like that. Next, I think we want to emboss. All right, and embossing ink. Very good, and let's stamp this out. Seems pretty good. Okay, and we'll grab our embossing glaze. Looks pretty good. All right, we'll be back in just a moment after I've had a chance to emboss this, and we'll see how that plays on this paper. Seems pretty good. Let's see here if I bend it. Are we getting any flaking? No? That seems to work pretty well. All right. Now, let's go in with a little bit of Distress Re-Inker. We'll see what that does. Let's see here. I think I want some shaded lilac. Okay. Spreads out pretty nicely. Oh, that really spreads. Huh. I didn't expect that to flow as nicely. The paper is pretty absorbent, but I can still move the color around, so that's a really good sign. Very cool. All right, and let's go for a little dash of seedless preserves. All right, next we're going to work with some Distress Spray Stain. So I'm going to want my water. This time I want to play with some of the oxide. Let's see how that does. Not bad, it's not having a massive effect. But let's see how this does. Okay, that's interesting. The spray kind of wants to sit on the paper. It doesn't have the same wicking quality that we saw with the paint. It just seems to kind of want to sit. Well, let's get some water and try moving it. Let's see what happens. Not much. I don't know, it just kind of wants to pool and puddle. Interesting. I was expecting a little bit more movement. It seems that I have to do the movement if I want the movement. All right, let's go ahead and put this on fast forward just for a moment while we try to get this spray to move, and then we'll drip drop, and then we'll do a little bit of collage and pull in some more texture paste. So this is really interesting. The spray stains didn't really want to play nicely with the paper. They seemed to kind of sit on the top and just stay in a puddle. It took quite a bit of work with the heat tool to get any type of flow. That is really interesting. I'm wondering if it's because this is so textured that it didn't give me the same movement. But on the other hand, the Distress paints, the second it hit the wet surface, it just went poof. So I don't know what's going on. But in the meantime, let's do a little bit of collage and see how it plays with our collage medium. So I've got some pieces off to the side, and we've got our collage medium here. Let's just do something on this side. Okay. Seems to be all right. The paper's not buckling, so that's a good sign. It's definitely showing some signs of flexibility. So that's all very good. All right, last element, let's just stick that right here. And I'll just kind of go over the top with a little bit more collage medium just to make sure everything is nicely sealed. Okay. So it seems to play well with added layers. That's always a good thing. So next we're going to want our texture paste and a stencil. I've got my whole mini stencil collection here, so we got lots of stuff to choose from. One of the nice things about mixed media is that anything goes and there's so many different options to play with. I just love experimenting, trying different color combos and working with a variety of textures. Definitely makes the whole process lots of fun. Okay, so we've got some of our crackle paste. Okay. All right, let's see how this turned out. Ooh, pretty good. I like that. So this would be our page using the Amazon Shadows Journal. Oh, I just remembered I want to add a dash of spritz. All right, now the page is done. Pretty good, and this is holding up amazingly well. It's super textured, and the bleed isn't too bad. There's a little bit, so like I might want to work with a extra page in between if I was going to use this as a mixed media journal, but it works the best with the distress crayons, the distress colored pencils, and the distress paints. I have no idea why, but it does, and I can't wait to experiment more with this and see what other things the paint can do. Okay, so that is our second journal page that we've investigated today. Now, we're going to look at our last two, and those include a page from the Bailey J Art Journal and a page from the Ranger Dina Wakely Craft Mixed Media Art Journal. So we're going to go ahead and put these on fast forward and see what happens. Let's take a quick look at that last page we did. So this was the Ranger Dina Wakely Craft Mixed Media Journal. So I totally forgot. I typically don't use this journal unless I have added a base layer of gesso first, because the sprays will be just absorbed into the craft stock. It's super, super absorbent, and a lot of the colors just won't pop unless you add that layer of gesso first. Like I was doing some pastel colors, and the paints, they were just sinking right in. But this paper is absolutely fantastic for collaging. It stamps nicely and obviously plays very well with mixed media texture. So if you're going to be using the substrate, which I do highly recommend, you're going to want to do your prep first. Just remember, add a good layer of gesso, and then all of your distress products are going to play beautifully across the surface. Otherwise, they're going to be sucked into that paper and kind of lost. But on its own, it makes a great collaging surface. Okay, let's move on to our final substrate for today's video, and that's going to be the Bailey J Art Journal. So let's dive right in. Now just a touch of Distress Spritz, and this final panel for today is done. All right, so this was the page from the Bailey J journal, and I had something really unexpected happen. When I pulled my stencil off, I lost an entire chunk of paper, so I've actually disintegrated this paper. I was not expecting that because I have used this before for mixed media things, but I don't think I had used texture paste before like that, so learned something new. So let's take a look at all of these pieces together, and we'll talk a little bit about each. And we'll start right here. So as you can see, the Distress paint plays absolutely beautifully. It had a beautiful flume, and we got some really good movement. The pencils are pretty good, but the paper will start peeling if you use too much water, so that's a downside. The Distress crayons move beautifully, no issues when adding water. Glaze works great. The spray stain surprisingly worked really well, and if you want to do some drip drops and a bit of lift, this paper is going to give that color back, no problem at all. And for collaging, it worked really well as well. But for the stenciling, I don't know why, but the Distress crackle it shredded the paper. I don't know. It's interesting, and it's something to be aware of. The paper is pretty thin, so you're definitely going to get some bleed. The best way to counteract that is to gesso over this back page or use that bleed through as a start off point to another work. So you've got some choices. Now let's take a look at the other pages that we worked on today as well. So we also have the Ranger Dina Wakely craft journal page. Again, this one, it will play well, but you've got to add that layer of gesso down. Otherwise, you're going to be losing a lot of color, and the page is going to be kind of drenched when you add your wet mediums. Honestly, this is actually still kind of damp, and it's been a while since we worked on that. Then we have the page from the Amazon Shadow Art Journal. Like, I'm still blown away by how the paint reacted. Everything played beautifully, even though this was such a thin page, and I don't even know what the paper is, but it's a great option, and I can't wait to do some more exploration. And then the first one that we played with today was from the Paul Rubin Mixed Media Watercolor Journal. That one honestly was the best results that we had today. So watercolor paper, we know it's made for wet medium, and that usually makes it a great candidate to play with other mixed mediums as well. So as you can see, this one got our cleanest results and the most consistent results that we typically see, like with distressed watercolor cardstock. So these are just the first 4 sheets that we've had a chance to play with as we explore mixed media options for creating with distress. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video and exploration today. Until next time, happy crafting.